We have started to record the most recent session of SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking, for the first summer session. We are officially in the home stretch. It is Monday, June 13th, 2022. As hard as it is to believe, we are now 1 week and 3 days away from the completion of the term. This week, we're going to be examining persuasive speech, research, and topic selection, Monday and Tuesday, with day 1 and day 2 now in the regular rotation of Wednesday and Thursday, giving all of you exactly 1 week's worth of preparation from now until next week with our final presentations, which are the wild card speeches. And we'll talk about those probably at the end of the week. What I have noticed, and you probably have too, is the delivery improvement in terms of overall smoothness, from demonstrative, where you're getting your sea legs, to informative, where you start to feel more comfortable. Are there issues with that triad of content, delivery, and visuals, especially focusing on delivery? Absolutely. Here are some items that you can look at. These are my notes from the past couple of class periods when we were going through informative speeches. Bits and pieces of items that I picked up during your deliveries. Wanna, gonna, like, gonna, drop G's, more than one person. Some individuals have nervous habits, touching their arms, touching their face on the webcam. Like, okay. More drop G's. Like more than once, okay. Wanna, gonna, kinda, y'all, all right. Gonna, good personal experiences, like, yeah, more comfortable on camera. Now, which is a verbal vocalic, I use that too. More fluent, smooth, like, kinda, And next to that, for the ums, I said a few. But there aren't as many. That's why I was mentioning before we started to record this afternoon, don't throw away any of your takes. Go back and watch them and notice when a vocalic comes or a drop G, that's the area where you just need to pause, look at your slides, and try to figure out how you can make everything be smooth as possible when you were speaking. It's not going to be perfect. And that's why some of you may have 1 or 2 elements that you may cringe when you're watching the final product, but that spontaneity may not necessarily come back, and that's the version that you send to me. Friendly piece of advice. Make certain that on your title slides, I see your name, I see the course, I see the term in which you've taken it. Don't have, in broad terms, informative speech. What's the title of your presentation? Focus on that and move on. Keep in mind, guys, you're my content creators in the same way that my mass media or mass communication students are, even those in my advanced public speaking course that I teach each spring. So some bits and pieces of what you're going to be giving me for each of these 4 major presentations very easily could wind up either on my website, and a lot of the website material I show on Tuesdays, or on my YouTube channel, which I'm going to be focusing on today. A couple of these presentations you have seen before, but it bears repeating because not only will I be breaking them down as I have in the past, but in this case, 2 items. One, from a persuasive standpoint, how it sounds and looks persuasive. And then the other part of it is putting on closed captioning for all of these presentations. Are you speaking in complete sentences? It may not always be perfect, but most of the time, with the additional practices, you come across as more polished on camera. And that's where I want all of you to strongly consider the upper half of your slides for Loom. Also consider this. Find a place For the webcam, larger or smaller, do not move it during your speech. I told you the other day that whenever we were watching one of the speeches, it looked like a bouncing ball. Don't ever do that. Find a spot and leave it there. You do not want to distract from, in this case, the persuasive nature of your speech. And if you're moving around with your webcam, people are going to pay more attention than that. Also, work around. This is why the video playbacks are so important. Whenever I'm playing your speech and then going from back to front, find a spot where you've got the webcam stationary and then work your text around it so there's nothing obscuring it. We're getting into the final 2 weeks. No one's grade is cast in stone. If I'm asking for these things and there's still no change, obviously that's going to have a negative impact on the overall scores that you receive. The professionalism is key to your long-term success. I was just in a couple of hours worth of meetings today with job applicants for an open position in our department at SAU. How are these individuals coming across on Loom? Do they have an attractive backdrop? In your case, you don't necessarily have to worry about it because you're basically using the circular profile on Loom, so you don't necessarily have to be concerned with that as much. But how are you as a speaker, and how are these individuals presenting themselves? Are they likable, knowledgeable, thoughtful, authoritative? Terms that, like a mantra, I have been using all during the term. You can be persuasive and not necessarily be heavy-handed or self-righteous. Keep in mind, there are people on ESPN, Fox Sports, talk radio, men and women here and around the world, who make a living through the overheated hot takes. And it gets to be humorous because you can tell where the arguments are going. And sometimes they're meaningless, sometimes they're pointless, sometimes they're stupid. Just because you're raising the rhetoric in terms of decibel level doesn't mean we're learning anything. And a good persuasive speech doesn't even necessarily have to mean that the world is going to end or there's going to be some type of nuclear cataclysm. Sometimes the best persuasive speeches can be subtle, they can be funny, but what do you feel strongly about? And again, it does not have to be serious. So over the next couple of days, today being research, tomorrow being topic selection, a lot of the videos that we're going to watch tie into that category. And the reason I wanted to spend a little bit of extra time on camera before we started today is to remind you of a couple of things. One, we're coming along quite nicely. Two, there's work to do. And with that in mind, let's go to the student preview mode on Blackboard with, as always, friendly reminders as to what the next couple of weeks are going to consist of. I have updated the announcements area so you know this is the week of June 13th through the 16th. We are rapidly heading toward, ideally, a positive conclusion, so the recorded archives are more important than ever. What am I saying about your outline structure? What am I saying about your placement of the webcam on the slides? What am I saying about your particular delivery style? What am I saying about potential improvement that you're making? All of that matters, couched from the standpoint of positive, constructive criticism. All of the grades have been posted, and we're coming along nicely there. I told you last week, I don't get hung up on individual grades. If you do the things I ask you to do, ideally, you'll be fine, but never making any guarantees about semester grades. That's totally up to you. And then at the tools area, as you're well aware, when you're at Ultra, if any of you would like to join us live over the next couple of weeks, I have the sessions recurring. You will see cascading down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for informative, I should say persuasive speech week. And then the final four, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week, the final four sessions where we look at wildcard speech preparation and the speeches themselves. All of these videos you can access, including from front to back and back to front, evaluations of anything that you've given me. And then on the second page, you can see in reverse chronological order, our first class session. So all of that's available for you to watch at your leisure. And remember, all you have to do is to click, and it opens in a separate window. But let's go back to the course syllabus area and talk about this week. The course itinerary first, where it is persuasive speech research, persuasive speech topic selection, persuasive speech day 1, persuasive speech day 2, and it's never too early to think about the end of the term, where next week it's wild card preparation. We'll talk about the wild card in due course, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves and focus on this week first. So in terms of the course speech schedule, we had one person who has dropped the course, and that individual was scheduled to speak on day 2. So that's the schedule. I have not dropped the person from this roster, but I will probably before the end of the week. Just keep in mind, time management is an essential part of your overall long-term success in this course. And when you actually go to the syllabus, all the way down on page 4, and there is the rest of the semester. The game's on the board right there. 20, 20, 20, 20 for the speeches, 10 for the self-evaluation speech critique, which we'll be talking about more in detail both on Monday and Tuesday of next week, and class participation. Keeping in mind, guys, that I can go at any time to the grade center in the professor's mode and check the actual last date, month, and day that you were checking in and watching videos. All of that is easily accessible to me. But I wanted to go next to my website because some of you have indicated in emails that you will go to my website and access the videos. So a friendly reminder that this is where you go if anyone wants to do that. I always have to be careful because I'm a devotee of Google and I have a lot of tabs open. Website is next. With the link available, as you're well aware, on page 3 of the syllabus that I just showed you. But from this point, the mass communication website, you scroll all the way down past all of the other courses that I teach that are available to mass communication majors who have an emphasis in mass media for the BA degree. And I will, for the benefit of spring 2023, the advanced public speaking course, if any of you want to take that, more than likely it will be face-to-face unless the pandemic gets really bad. But in this window at my website, anything that I've just showed you, the syllabus, the checklist, some of the spring 2020 YouTube speeches, the course itinerary, the course speech schedule for you guys, all of the different outlines, audios, videos are available right here. And eventually you'll see persuasive data. And then all the way down at the bottom, wildcard material. And these are the course videos so far. 19 class sessions during the summer. So far, we have had, as you can see, 4, 9, 11 class sessions with 8 to go. Anything that we talk about during any class is available right here. As I told you a couple of moments ago, that includes your speeches in real time, which is why, as we come back to me, it is so important that what you send me corresponds with what I ask for. When it comes to the way in which you set something up on Loom, or setting up your webcam, or in this case, what are you going to talk about this week in terms of a persuasive topic? It really does matter. And with that in mind, without any further ado, let's go to my YouTube channel. I already have one of my playlists ready to go. I am going to focus today on what is available on my YouTube channel. You can see that this was the first speech during the pandemic sent to me on Loom. You saw that from Jocelyn Keller last week. This is the first speech you're going to see today. Jocelyn's presentation on why you should not procrastinate. We've got one representative sample of each graded speech from the spring, first summer, fall, and fall intersession of 2020. Spring and first summer session of 2021. Now I'm going to go back up and put Jocelyn's presentation that is why you should not procrastinate on the screen. I'm going to give you, going back 2 years, one example of each of these presentations with not as much feedback as I often do, because I want these presentations to be on a course video for the record, back to back to back. Let's put Jocelyn's up for just a moment and pause it. We'll put it in closed captioning, get it ready, but leave it here for just a moment. I will also check to make sure that you see what I see and that my audio is on. Let that visual soak in for just a moment. This was recorded on Loom that I downloaded and uploaded at that point to my YouTube channel. I also have this presentation uploaded to my website. What did Jocelyn do here that makes her Loom look different? She didn't put it in video. She experimented with photo, meaning that her webcam is bigger than her slides. If you ever want to experiment like this, by all means do so. But the other part of it is this: there are a couple of you who are playing your Looms or recording them and you're not putting it into the slideshow. Please make certain that you are watching the course videos in real time. There are some individuals in this course who may not have used PowerPoint before this course. Always go into PowerPoint slideshow or Google Slides from beginning to make certain that it's full screen, and then you can experiment with making it smaller depending upon whether you want to experiment with the traditional, as many people do, and Jocelyn did. You'll recall for her informative speech on homeschooling, she was in this corner of the screen. She has a backdrop or a curtain, I don't know what it is, but it is attractive. It appears that she's got good light. I don't know if it's a ring light, but she's got it set up in a photo mode, which means that it's larger, it's square, and her slides are smaller. Now you can get away with this if you can still read the slides. And why you shouldn't procrastinate: her name, the course, because this was our 5-10 night course before we had to leave in mid-March due to the pandemic, and spring 2020 was when the course was being offered. It's in closed captioning. Let's go full screen.
My name is Jocelyn.
And when we're watching this presentation, look at her eye contact, look at her slides, examine her persuasive argument, and also examine her complete sentence structure. This is right at 6 minutes. Here we go.
Hello everyone, my name is Jocelyn Keller, and today I'm presenting my persuasive speech, Why You Should Not Procrastinate. Psychologists say that procrastinators are made by their environment and not born. 95% of the population is prone to procrastination, but that's separate from the 20% of the population that's prone to chronic procrastination. Chronic procrastination can be a disorder only treatable by cognitive behavioral therapy. It's brought on by poor self-regulation. This can be fostered in authoritarian families where the parents overregulate the children, and the children therefore have a poor sense of self-regulation. Doctors identify three main types of procrastination and procrastinators, here listed below. One, the thrill seekers who wait until the last minute to get to the euphoric rush of the stress. Avoiders who are typically concerned with what other people think of them and avoid due to fear of the failure or even success. And lastly, decisional procrastinators who avoid making a choice because they feel as if it alleviates the responsibility of whatever the outcome may be. Studies have found that procrastination also has effects on your health. There's a correlation between procrastination and decreased general health. The effects may include lowered immune system, which means more susceptibility to colds specifically, susceptibility to obesity, gastrointestinal problems, insomnia due to procrastination of sleep, which can even then lead to sleep deprivation, which can lead to heart problems and more obesity, and poor mental and emotional health as well. People who procrastinate can feel ashamed of their procrastination and guilty about it. That can lead to low self-esteem, self-loathing, anxiety, depression, and it just propagates the cycle of procrastination. People who procrastinate also have higher levels of muscle tension, of migraines. They're more prone to do drugs because the poor impulse control and self-regulation go hand in hand with drug abuse. And procrastinators in general have poor health because they oftentimes will procrastinate going to the doctor. Procrastination also has a heavy stress on relationships, whether it be professional relationships like coworkers, team members, or business partners. If you procrastinate your task, they will lose faith in your ability to do the task. You could jeopardize your position, and you could even prevent yourself from ever rising up the ladder again, making you miss opportunities. Peer relationships, which could be students, project partners, extracurricular groups. If you procrastinate the completion of your share of work and lead to the undue stress of all of your teammates, then not only will they be unduly stressed, but then you will too. And that may even ruin a friendship or acquaintanceship. And personal relationships, of course, are highly affected by procrastination. In a relationship, you have to give 100% and 100%. And if you procrastinate your 100%, things might not go well. Avoiding responsibility of a task can cause the burden of undue stress for you and your partner, and because they have to deal with what you don't do. And of course, procrastination leads to poor financial decisions and lots of other financial issues. Procrastination of financial issues can lead to all of the following: delaying investment, which means missed opportunities in capital; financial indiscipline, which is caused by procrastination of budgeting, that can bankrupt you. Procrastinators often have no emergency fund due to never getting around to creating an emergency fund. They oftentimes delay crucial decisions, which means they have to rush to make the decision, which causes poor decisions and causes you to lose capital. They have extra fines and fees for procrastinating on payments and bills, like your taxes, loan payments, bills, and of course, procrastination of estate planning, like having no will, trust, or power of attorney. And lastly, the quality of work is most definitely affected by procrastination. Procrastinators sometimes claim to say that the stress of procrastination causes them to have more of a creative reaction to the work they have to do, but that's simply not true. Any creativity displayed is just a fraction of what could have been achieved had they not procrastinated. Studies show that procrastinators take longer, they make more mistakes, and they believe themselves to be doing better than they actually are at activities. Their work is often unpolished and unedited, and their quality is at times lowered to such a shameful extent that it promotes low self-esteem, which in turn could promote, again, the cycle of procrastination. And in conclusion, that is why I think you should not procrastinate.
Really an excellent job. I'm not going to go into as great a detail as I have in the past because I just want all of these presentations to sink in primarily today and tomorrow from beginning to end. This is Jocelyn's third presentation, one in class because it was face-to-face until the pandemic hit, and then her informative and persuasive on Loom. Does she give the appearance of being more confident? Yes. Does she have a thoughtful presentation in terms of its organizational structure? Yes. Does she create a positive case in terms of procrastination can be a problem and why you should not do it? Yes. Does she provide research to support her thesis? Yes. Does she, as a public speaker, come across as someone with a poised, authentic persona? Yes. That's why I keep telling all of you, no matter what semester I teach, fall, spring, summer, all of these practice sessions are incredibly helpful to try to figure out what your own content, delivery, and visual styles are going to be. She happens to work best off of bullet points. Some of you are going to feel more confident based off of graphics, but she's got more than enough information here to fill the time. And as you can see, she met that minimum benchmark of 6 minutes. And I should indicate, and I'll come back on camera for this, there will be, over the final 2 weeks of the term, some presentations that we played as also representative samples during the first 2 days of class. But it's helpful to watch these with a jaundiced but positive eye more than once. What do you see in some of these speakers that you may not have seen before? How are their organizational structures similar or different than your own? How are they trying to persuade the audience? How are you going to try to persuade the audience? My feeling is that subtle is best. Being overt doesn't necessarily work. That's why I was telling you about the hot takes at the beginning of class. And as I had indicated on one of last week's videos, is it entertaining? Yes. Is it insightful? And I remember the term I used from Thursday of last week. Not really. And it may not be the point. That was spring 2020. Now let's continue on to what you are doing right now, first summer, but 2020. The YouTube presentation that you are going to see next is from Sharissa. Sometimes people are going to be talking about what goes on in their personal lives as cannon fodder for any of the speeches. Primarily, it could be 3 out of the 4, demonstrative, persuasive, or wild card. Let's get this ready.
Hello.
Pause it, put it in closed captioning, and go all the way back to the beginning. Sharissa had just graduated from high school, like some of you in this class, and as I recall, she was going to Henderson State University on a music scholarship. Why you should talk to someone about your problems even if you don't want to. Persuasive speeches like this can be very effective if you're using your own experience, blended with research. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Shreyas Oliveris, and I would like to talk to you about why you should talk to someone about your problems, even if you don't want to, or because you don't think you have any. I am talking on this topic because I have some experience in this topic. Others might not know they need it. I was in the same boat as those people. I didn't know I needed it. And talking to someone can really alleviate emotional and mental stress. I am trying to convince you to talk to someone instead of just coping because 9 out of 10 times you will choose the wrong coping mechanism and end up into an unhealthy lifestyle. You could end up isolating yourself, binging or overeating, starving yourself, or doing drugs and alcohol that you should not be doing. Coping only makes you bottle stuff up. And if you apply only a coping mechanism, your mental health could get worse than what it already is. And if you talk to someone long enough, you might end up saying what bothers you, even though you didn't even want to say what was bothering you. I know that talking to someone helps because I personally didn't talk to someone until I started my video audition in April for the Henderson State University Show Band of Arkansas. I was supposed to turn in a video audition by April 17th, and it was April 15th, I do believe, by then. I was told by my mom to get ready for the audition because since they were going to look at my entire body pretty much to see how I practiced with my saxophone, I had to look my best, presentable. So I went to get ready and I was taking a long time. My mom walked in on me while I was doing my makeup. I was applying eyeliner and she asked me if I was okay. I looked at her and said, "No, I'm not okay. I'm scared." And she asked me, "Why are you scared?" I responded, "I can't do this. I cannot start this. I cannot finish this. I don't want to do this. I'm scared. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm scared. I don't know if I'm going to mess up. I don't know if I'm going to do it perfect. I am scared." So she calmed me down for a few minutes. Once I was calm enough to start, I sat down in front of the camera and started playing. It took a few tries to get the proper video down, but I finally got it down. And I got the scholarship. I couldn't start or finish anything because I was scared. And I never told anyone I was scared. I was always, "I forgot how to start this," instead of, "I'm scared. I don't want to do this." So no one knew what I was feeling. And everything I just spoke about is true. This really did happen. I am on medications now for my anxiety because it was not very helpful to stay quiet. I needed to express what was wrong with me. And talking to my mom about my fear of starting anything helped me get on medications. My boyfriend was stressed constantly. He had too much on his mind that he didn't even know about. He got so bad to the point to where he would blow up on me if one minor inconvenience happened. I convinced him to talk to me a little bit, and we're both going to start counseling as soon as the campuses open up. So we're both functioning a little better now as people. And as far as my medication, we're still not entirely sure on which dosage helps me. We're still experimenting on that. And this marks the end of my presentation. I'd like to thank you all for watching. And for those who I have encountered in my life, thank you for being there for me.
It takes a lot of courage for someone such as Sharissa to be very open. Talk to someone about your problems. And when you do that, you know what it makes someone? Normal. Everyone has issues. Everyone has problems. And the fact that she, at such a young age, is talking so openly and honestly about them and successfully overcoming them is the essence of a persuasive speech that is uplifting, because someone is going to be watching this. And that's the interesting part about putting these on YouTube or making them available on Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. Someone is going to watch your speech, whether it is serious or uplifting or thoughtful or provocative, and they're going to identify with it in one way or another. So when you're looking at Sharissa at the bottom of the screen, in the same way that we saw the sincerity come across with Jocelyn for procrastination, that believability comes through with each of the speakers that you're going to be seeing today and tomorrow. Some of them tomorrow may be on audio. But as someone who has spent his whole life in mass communication, in broadcast media, in public speaking, being in front of the camera, being behind the microphone, the camera doesn't lie. And her sincere nature comes through. If you've got a problem, don't be afraid to talk about it. And I think that is so important. The essence of a quality persuasive speech. And coming back to me for just a moment, they don't always necessarily have to be that way, but whenever you are considering a persuasive speech, what do you feel strongly about? And it doesn't necessarily have to be controversial. We'll be looking at topic selection areas tomorrow that can be humorous, that can be frivolous, but still fit the rubric of persuasion. And now we move ahead from the spring and first summer of 2020 to the fall semester of 2020. And this is a little bit different than either one, procrastination, or two, talk to someone about your problems. This individual wanted to persuade the audience in the fall of 2020 why animation is an important and useful medium. We'll make it full screen. Pause it. This is from Sam. We saw her last week with an example of one of her presentations. In that case, it was informative. Why animation is an important and useful medium. We have placed it in closed captioning. We will make it full screen. The problem that we had during the fall and spring semester, as you can see, is the 5-minute time limit on Loom. because after the trial period, if you don't pay for it, you get 5 free minutes and that's it. So let's go ahead and put Sam's presentation from the fall, persuading us about the importance and useful nature of cartoons, animation as a medium. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Sam Hawkins, and this is my speech on cartoons and why animation is an important and useful medium. Many people tend to dismiss animation as lesser than live action because they see it as a genre for kids. However, animation is not some monolith. You can't categorize all animation under the same umbrella. Animation is a medium that encompasses many different types of stories and genres under it. There are plenty of different genres that can be animated. There is horror, there is action, there is comedy, and there's plenty of them that are aimed at adults, such as the ones on the screen, which are Archer and the Harley Quinn series. Certain character designs also work better animated than they do in live action. Too much CGI in live action can often come off as unnatural and make the audience lose their immersion. As you can see, the animated concept art, I should say, of this character looks a lot more interesting and also just a lot easier to look at than the image on the right of the live action version that was animated using a lot of CGI, but a live actor. Animation is also really good at capturing emotions and movements, because they can often be really exaggerated and over-exaggerated. Unlike in live action, where actors can only portray a reasonable amount of emotions without looking silly. Animation is kind of not held to that thing and is sort of allowed to express in more exaggerated ways. Some examples of this are these characters who are expressing in ways for both dramatic and for comedic effects, and are able to get their emotions across really effectively because of the medium that they're in, allowing them to be more expressive and exaggerated. Animation can also be stylized in interesting ways. A good example of this is Into the Spider-Verse, which was animated to look as if it was a moving comic book. It uses many bright colors and halftones and a combination of 2D animation and 3D animation to get across this comic book feel. Another good example of a really well done animated series is BoJack Horseman, which uses symbolism and things like that to cover many serious topics such as depression and substance abuse and mental illnesses. A lot of these things are covered using symbolism and things like that to sort of get the emotion of the scene across in ways that couldn't be really achieved in live action. In conclusion, animation and cartoons can be for anybody. Animation is a time-consuming form of art, and even simple kids shows can take lots of time and effort to make. So animation as a medium should not be dismissed as something lesser than a live action. It takes just as much work to do and is just as creative. Here are some really good examples of animated series with interesting stories and characters and things like that. There's Over the Garden Wall, Tangled the series, Adventure Time, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and BoJack Horseman, which I mentioned earlier, but I would advise to check out some content warnings for that one before watching it, because as I said, it covers a lot of heavy topics. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for listening, and I hope I could help you gain a new perspective on animation as a creative medium.
So in the case of Sam, she wanted to, with very creative, thoughtful graphics, persuade the audience about the creativity artistically of animators. And through her visuals, notice the difference between our first speaker, Jocelyn, who is being persuasive and extemporaneous, where the conversationality flows primarily through bullet points. Then notice what Sam's doing. All of the visuals that she is using is stimulating her spontaneity. Whatever you think is going to help you in all of your practice sessions, and it may be a combination of both, but go ahead and play around with this. That's why I say probably far too often, save all of the takes that we don't see. What do you look like on camera? What are your graphics? Do you need to juxtapose the order of the slides? That's why the video playback, in the same way that if you're an athlete, you're going to go through watching videos of practice and of competition. Same thing here. How do you learn? Practice, working the camera. And in a social media era, you're on camera all the time on your social media platforms. You're on TikTok, you're on Instagram, you're doing all different kinds of videos on FaceTime. So you should feel very comfortable speaking, albeit in a more formal manner, and for a persuasive topic. Now think about the uniqueness of the topics that we've had so far. Remember, we started off with procrastination, then for a persuasive topic, why it's important to talk to people about your problems, and now we get into the relevance of animation, all basically in the same time frame. But I am intentionally today just letting you watch the videos from front to back and letting them sink in from three perspectives: the organization of the slides, where the speakers are on Loom, and are they talking in complete sentences? And for the most part, this is where you really start to see the improvement. Demonstrative, getting your sea legs. Informative, serving as a teacher or lecturer, gets a little bit better. Now for persuading, and last week coming up with the wild card, really you should let your spontaneity, your personalities respectively come through. Spring, first summer, fall of 2020. Because of the pandemic, you'll recall the semester ended early, so we had a fall intersession during the month of December of 2020 for those of you who are upperclassmen. Let's go back to the list on YouTube for a fall intersession 2020 presentation. So we are already at presentation number 4 on my YouTube channel. This is Sarah. You'll recall that during the first week of preparation for demonstrative speaking, we saw her video that's available on my website for heat transfer vinyl, a hot process. Now we have moved up to her presentation on positive co-parenting. I think we also saw her informative speech about blended families, but this is positive co-parenting, persuasive speech from fall intersession of 2020. Pause it, closed captioning, back to the beginning, full screen.
Hey everybody, my name is Sarah.
Webcam, slightly larger, upper left. So far, the only person that we saw using the bottom portion of the screen for Loom was Sharissa during the first summer 2020 course. This is Sarah on the 5-minute timer, which she has in reverse. She's looking at a webcam, timer right here, so she's not going to be darting around for eyes. Here we go.
Hey everybody, my name's Sarah, and today I'm going to talk to you about positive co-parenting. This is something that is very important to me and affects my daily life. Not only am I from a divorced family, but I also have a blended family myself. I had 2 kids with my ex-husband, Lila and Kinsley, and then my now husband Joey has a child with his ex-wife Peyton, and then together we have Harley. So we co-parent on all sides. So this is something that we have had to work on and still work on every day, but I feel like is important to a lot of people today. What is co-parenting? Co-parenting is where 2 or more parents work together to take care of their child in a positive and effective way. This can be done with just mom and dad, or with, when you get into the more blended families, mom, dad, stepmom. It's just important that we all work together to benefit our kids. Joint custody is what we should all strive for. It's not always the correct answer for every situation, but it is the ideal, what we should strive for. Joint custody is where both parents are equally sharing time in making decisions together. This does avoid the tricky, confusing custody orders that can get so out of hand and hard to keep up with. It eliminates that, and it gives you a more structured, easy to follow setup with your kids. This also shows your kids that what ended their marriage is not bigger than your love for them, because you can still come together in light of your differences and do what is best for them, and not just selfishly what you want, because of course we would all want our kids to ourselves, but that's not always what's best for them. What's best for them is having mom and dad in their lives as much as possible. Next up is happy kids. Positive co-parenting creates happy children. Your kids will be happier knowing that they have mom and dad, or even stepmom and stepdad in their life, and they don't feel like they have to choose one over the other. They say it takes a village to raise children, and that's so true. And the more kids that love your children, the better. So why not everybody love them and just leave it at that? It creates happy parents. Positive co-parenting is where you're going to put your child first, and then you forget the rest of everything else. It's not he said, she said, whatever had to do with your divorce. None of that even matters anymore. And once you realize that, it eliminates so much stress. You get to share the responsibility, and sharing your time can actually be a blessing. When your children are there, since they're not there all the time, it makes that time so much more special. Then when they're not there, then that actually gives you a break, which a lot of parents don't have. So you get that break to, make your eye appointments or doctor's appointments, or have date night with your spouse, because you have that free scheduled time that you can count on, which is so important. And then you'll have that other parent to count on too. Like, say I got stuck in traffic and my husband's at work, I can call my ex-husband and say, hey, I need you to get our kids because I'm stuck in traffic. And that's something that we're both putting aside our differences, knowing that we can lean on each other as long as it's to take care of our children. It's setting your kids up for success. By positively co-parenting, you are getting to be that positive role model for your child. Taking that stress and conflict out of parenting is going to reassure your child and set them up for success by learning from you. It also teaches them great conflict resolution by watching you and your current spouse or ex-spouse work together to come up with plans and solutions for things, which also teaches them teamwork, which is great traits to have going forward in life. And most importantly of all, it benefits everybody. It benefits you, it benefits your ex, it benefits your children most of all. And that is why this is something so important to me, because it benefits my beautiful children, who I'm going to show you here. This is from left to right, Peyton, Lila, Harley, and then down here at the bottom we have Kinsley. And this is why this is such important to me, and I hope you learned a little bit today. Thank you.
I cut it off right there because she needed to do 1,000, 1,000, 2,000, 3, pause, and then stop, because if I let her go and say thank you and complete it, then all of a sudden it recycles. But notice she is in the last 8 seconds on the clock. On the bottom left, 4:52, her timer changes color on Loom so she knows how to budget her time accordingly. That is key if we're in a fall or spring semester course. It just so turns out during the intercession, apparently she was right at the beginning of the period where it was beyond the 28 to 30 day period. But as we saw with Sharissa, a lot of personal examples trying to persuade the audience that you can be in a blended family. In this case, she brought daughters, he brought a daughter, and they have a daughter together, and how everything can work if properly organized. And if you can see all of Sarah's presentations and her outlines, she is incredibly well prepared and incredibly organized. I told you that in Jocelyn's case, she and many students feel more comfortable in terms of time management with bullet points. In this case, Sarah, mom, upper left-hand corner, is primarily focused photos, graphics, different types of minimal text for this presentation, but it worked quite well. Now let's continue on to the spring semester of 2021. And by the way, also a very impressive complete sentence structure. So we move from fall intercession exactly like a first summer course, 19 course sessions. So the person that you just saw, Sarah and Sharissa earlier, talk about your problems, they're working on the exact same schedule that you are. 19 class sessions, speech 3 out of 4. And that brings us to spring of 2021. Now I should indicate, the person who gave this speech told me, Professor Reppert, this is somewhat of a lengthy presentation because I think it's really important that anyone who is an animal owner, particularly dogs, understands the challenges that are faced with all the different diseases that dogs can have. And she felt very strongly about this particular persuasive speech on heartworm prevention. It runs longer, more than 11 minutes, but it doesn't drag. And let's put this on the record, keeping in mind spring, fall semester, fall intercession of 2020. Now we move on to spring of 2021. Heartworm prevention for dogs. In a longer presentation like this, as you could imagine, complete sentence structure is going to be key. And we've seen Taylor before. Put the closed captioning on.
My name is Taylor Abbey.
And that is her dog. And you can tell that just closed captioning, you click on that and all of a sudden it just wants to take off. Our next presentation of the day, heartworm prevention for dogs from spring 2021.
My name is Taylor Abbey, and today I'm going to be talking to you about why you should have your dog on heartworm prevention. And this is my persuasive speech for Introduction to Public Speaking for the spring 2021 semester. So the causes of heartworms is actually when a mosquito that bites a dog, a heartworm positive dog, and those heartworm larvae get into that mosquito that bit the dog. Mosquito goes on to bite a heartworm negative dog, and those larvae are deposited into that negative dog, heartworm negative dog. And then those larvae travel, they grow up and gradually travel towards the heart and the lungs, and their life cycle re-begins. They grow up, start producing more larvae, and that now heartworm positive dog gets bit again by a mosquito, and the larvae that those adult heartworms have produced goes into the mosquito, and the mosquito goes on to again bite a heartworm negative dog. So the symptoms that happen when your dog does get heartworms is your dog will cough, your dog will have a bloated belly, your dog will have a decrease in labor or decrease in activities, or even labor in doing activities. He will have a decrease in appetite and a decrease in weight. So the picture to the left is actually a picture of a dog, an example of a dog coughing because of heartworms. They feel like they have something stuck in their throat because of the heartworms in their lungs. And they feel like they need to get it out, and that's what it sounds like, is they have something stuck in their throat, but really they don't. And to the right, you have a picture of a healthy dog and a bloated dog. And this is one of the symptoms, like I said. So the bloated dog will actually look like he has to go to the bathroom, pee or poop really bad, but really there is fluid built up in his abdomen from the heartworms. And what's actually going on behind the scenes is the adult heartworms that are 6 to 12 inches long live in the heart and vessels in the lungs. The younger heartworms live in the bloodstream throughout the body, but the adult heartworms like to focus on the heart and the lungs. When the adult heartworms die, the body actually pushes the dead heartworms towards the lungs, and then they begin to decompose in those lungs. And that's actually what causes the coughing, like that I explained earlier. As the living adult heartworms are in the heart pushes them back and forth as it pumps back and forth throughout the arteries and the vessels, and that severely damages the arteries and the vessels. And this can lead to heart failure, which later leads to the bloated abdomen. The later stages of heartworms it could be congestive heart failure because of a blockage that the heartworms are causing in the heart. It can cause loss in muscle mass and mobility. And this dog to the right, you can tell that, and he actually has congestive heart failure, but he severely has muscle mass loss, and I'm sure he's not as mobile as he used to be. And you can definitely tell that he has a very bloated abdomen, and you can't tell it by the video, but I'm sure he has coughing fits a lot just because of all of that fluid in his abdomen and what's going on inside of his body. And even in the severe stages of heartworms, it can cause death. What we do at the vet clinic to diagnose this is we get a blood sample, and we usually get the blood samples either at your dog's yearly checkup, or you come in and want to get them on a different heartworm preventive, or you get a new dog and want them to get on heartworm preventative. So we start by getting blood, then we put it in these snap tests, and we will put them in the machines, and it will tell us if your dog is heartworm positive or heartworm negative. But those tests only show us if your dog has heartworms that are 6 months or older. What we do to tell if your dog has heartworms that are younger are look in a microscope at your dog's blood. Just to drop your dog's blood and a little bit smeared onto a slide, and then put it in a microscope, and we look for little baby microfilarias, what they're called. And here's a video of some microfilaria swimming around in blood. If you look to the right there, and it's coming across the screen, These are actually red blood cells that you're looking at. And where they're moving pretty good right there in the middle of the screen. So that's actually a microfilariae moving those red blood vessels around. And that's what we look for when we're looking for microfilariae in your dog. So if the test shows it's negative, but we see microfilariae, your dog is still positive. It's just that it's not as far as long enough for the actual test to come up. And this is the reason why we look at the blood under a microscope also. If your dog is positive, there are two ways to treat, but they are both very, very hard on the dog and on your wallet. But it's not impossible. Fast kill is very hard on the lungs, and even younger dogs are very affected by this. I've seen young dogs come in, blood work looks good, we give the shot, but all of those dead heartworms, like I said before, are dispersed in the lungs. And those heartworms have to decompose in the lungs. They can't be pooped out, they can't be coughed up, they have to decompose in your dog's lungs. So that causes coughing, it damages the lungs. So we just wanted to make sure that your dog is on heartworm prevention so that we don't have to go through this, and you don't have to go through this, and your dog doesn't have to go through this, and we can keep them as healthy as possible. And also fast kill and both slow kill are very hard on your wallets. For fast kill, your dog has to be very restricted. He has to be in a kennel at all times. He can't run around. If he does, then since fast kill is hard on the lungs, that will cause him not to be able to breathe very well when he goes running around, and his lungs won't be able to keep up with him as he runs around. And fast kill, it only takes up to about 60 days to finish the rounds of 3 shots. But like I said, it's very hard on the lungs, and you have to keep your dog very confined. Fast kill is also the harder on your wallet. It's very expensive. You have to pay for blood work, you have to pay for the antibiotics, and also you have to pay for the round of 3 shots. The slow kill, however, is hard on the heart rather than the lungs, because of those heartworms are in your dog's heart longer, and we're dispersing heartworms lower into the lungs as they die, instead of killing a bunch of them at once and then getting all dispersed into the lungs at once. With slow kill, we're waiting for those worms to die, so they're slowly decomposed instead of just dumping them all into the lungs. You do have to have the same round of antibiotics, but we don't do blood work. It takes up to 24 months to fully get rid of the heartworms. It is cheaper, but it's still more expensive than just getting heartworm prevention. And the dogs don't have to be restricted near as much because, like I said, it's not hard on the lungs, so they can do a little bit more than if they were on fast kill. There are several ways to prevent your dog from getting heartworms. It is easier on your dog and easier on your wallet to just prevent your dog from getting heartworms rather than treat it later. There are 2 different main kinds of heartworm prevention. There's a long-term, which are injections. The ProHeart 6 lasts 6 months, and the ProHeart 12 lasts 12 months. This is really good for people who have other people looking for their dogs, or you kind of forgetful. Maybe you're the main caretaker of the dog, but the dog lives with someone else, like your grandparent or something. This is really good. The only downside to them is that they do not take care of intestinal parasites like roundworms, tapeworms, any kind of intestinal parasite, or fleas and ticks. Then you have monthly preventative, which are usually topical or chewable tablets or treats. These are beef flavored treats or topical treats, and they go between the shoulders or in the mouth. The topical treat preventions are really good for smaller dogs that don't like treats and aren't very food motivated, but they all do different things and prevent for different things, but they all have heartworm preventative in them. And the monthly ones usually include intestinal parasites, fleas, or ticks. So to prevent your dog from having to go through the treatment or even going through having heartworms and having your dog's lungs and heart go through all of that trouble, we can just have your dog on a prevention that works really good for your dog and your family in whatever situation you're in, and prevent it rather than treat it later. And it's just easier on everyone, easier on everyone's wallet, easier on everyone's lungs and heart to just have heartworm prevention monthly or every 6 months or every 12 months. Thank you for listening. This is my persuasive speech for Introduction to Public Speaking, the spring 2021 semester. Thank you.
I want you to think about something as we leave it on her final slide. She spoke for 11 and a half minutes. No real breaks of thought, no overt problems with grammar, vocalics, drop G's, those types of things. That's why it's so important on a couple of occasions during the semester, as what we're doing today, to play these presentations back to back to back to back to back as if we were in a classroom, without me, at least today, going from back to front, breaking down the videos and everything else. I just want you to visualize what each of these individuals are doing. For instance, how does Taylor set up her visuals? One of the items on the SAU evaluation checklist, which online I use as an informal aid to help all of you, under visuals, there is something called text image balance. Now, oftentimes I'll go back and watch these videos and I say graphics, but the images that are on the screen. ProHeart, that's an image. Simparica Trio, that is another image. How is, in the case of Taylor, how is she remaining extemporaneous on prevention? By incorporating the bullet points and incorporating the graphics into the overall presentation, trying to persuade you that heartworm prevention for dogs is crucial. And also keep in mind that if you want to bring in video, as she did, and play it within the context of a presentation, you can. She did it in such a way where you'll recall she was playing the video of the challenges that dogs can face. She's playing that video, but she is narrating over it. But speaking in complete sentences, very nice, precise setup all the way through. Webcam, upper left-hand corner, timer next door. What has she done with her slides? She has placed them slightly smaller than she could have, the inset, so to speak, which is why there's a little bit of wasted space here, intentional, wasted space here, intentional, on top, on bottom, which is why her webcam is overlapping the slide on top. If any of you have really text-laden material and you're afraid there might be some obscuring, especially when it comes to a headline, you can go ahead and experiment with that. But go back and watch this presentation. Like I said, intentionally, I am not today and Monday of next week for the wild card, intentionally for the third and fourth speeches, not breaking them down the way that I did for the demonstrative informative, watching them as we would, as I said a moment ago, in a classroom setting. Which brings us to our final YouTube persuasive speech of the day. What have we looked at in chronological order since the pandemic? Spring 2020, first summer 2020, fall intercession 2020, spring 2021, first summer 2021 is coming up. At this point, we are going to go all the way to the bottom. Pursuing celebrity lifestyles. For the record, we have looked at why you should not procrastinate, talk to someone about your problems. Let's do that one more time. There's Jocelyn's webcam, slightly larger, left-hand side, right-hand side. Her text and images on her slides will be smaller, but still easily readable in the bullet point format. Sharissa is the only person that we have seen that kept her webcam in the bottom left-hand portion of the screen. How to make great coffee was her wild card. Why you should not procrastinate. Talk to someone about your problems. Fall 2020, and I keep forgetting this, Sam, I'm sorry. Why animation is an important and useful medium. Fall intercession 2020. Positive co-parenting. They've moved their graphics in terms of the webcam to the upper portion of the screen. Spring 2021, Taylor, same thing, upper left. And our final presenter, and we saw her earlier in the term last week for Emperor Nero, and you're going to see Sierra again. This is Sierra Putney, pursuing celebrity lifestyles. Because sometimes, as you're well aware, individuals who are in pop culture are going to be influencers, and they'll have their own YouTube channels, they'll have their own brands. But this was Sierra's persuasive speech with the webcam in the upper right-hand corner and the timer over on the far left. There's too much value placed on purchasing materials and pursuing celebrity lifestyles. That was too long of a title for YouTube, so I broke it down to pursuing celebrity lifestyles. As with all of these folks, play it in real time.
Hello, my name is Sierra
Closed
Putney.
captioning on, and how they are improving with their level of comfort, being conversational yet structured in talking to their respective audiences. Final speech of the day, Sierra.
Hello, my name is Sierra Putney. Today I'll be presenting my persuasive speech on there's too much value placed on purchasing materials and pursuing celebrity lifestyles. I remember when the shoe brand Champion was sold for just under $40 at Payless. This same brand of shoes now costs maybe twice that or more. I used to witness and experience kids getting bullied because they wore these cheap shoes, and now they're popular. This notion of kids getting bullied, an act that's been very persistent on the internet as well, over something as superficial and trivial as a pair of shoes, highlights that as a society, particularly among teens, young adults, and kids, we place too much value on accumulating trendy, luxury, and/or expensive items. And because we associate having these items with acceptance and success, are watching social media influencers in particular flaunt their purchases in materials has encouraged some people to go to great lengths in order to achieve fame. One might say that in the year of 2021, we are in an era of relatability. However, just because we see some of that relatability doesn't mean that the posting and boasting of possessions has just died off with the extreme extravagancy we used to see on social media 2 or 3 years ago. There's nothing wrong with posting the new things you've got online for others to see. However, the abundance and the emphasis on the price of the items has had serious social repercussions. People now think that they have to buy a lot of items, expensive or otherwise, in order to achieve this picture that's been portrayed on the internet. And if they don't achieve this image, they feel depressed or inadequate. Some social media influencers have also explicitly expressed or implied that the items that an average person can afford are below them and not worth their attention. This, without a doubt, has reached the ears of many viewers and people and has contributed to an increase in bullying over such matters as inadequate clothing and possessions of others. With celebrities endorsing such consumerism, in some ways contributing to consumerism's glorification, many people are searching for their 15 minutes of fame. Other than the possibility of riches, people also see that fame, to an extent, provides success, attention, and acceptance, as well as an enviable position. Across many platforms, social media platforms, you'll see people going to great lengths in order to achieve or to taste a little bit of what it's like to be a celebrity, from drinking and eating cereal out of a person's mouth to almost dying after swimming in a freezing cold frozen lake. These are just minor examples of challenges that are circulating online. But the thing is that these actions attract large amounts of attention and affirmation. I've heard many people complain about the lack of creativity currently, or the recurring senselessness across different and various platforms. However, to that I say, whatever gathers the most attention survives and prospers. Content creators get attention that they want, and then people watching the content take notes and they use that towards their own pursuits of the same feat. That leads to the death of creativity, eventually, at least for a while. And all of that to say that if there wasn't too much value placed on purchasing certain materials and becoming famous, then we wouldn't see people getting bullied for not having this and not having that, or not having a lot of this and not having a lot of that. And we also wouldn't see people sacrificing their creativity, their originality, and safety for the sake of 5 minutes in the limelight. And that's not to say that there's anything wrong with being famous or anything wrong with having the money to buy what you want. It's about what you do and the message you send when you're in that position. It should be possible for people to do what they want, be who they want, buy what they want, without making others feel less than if they don't want the same things. And on a more important note, if youth's mental health is at stake, using these social media platforms the way that they've been using them, then what's the use in convincing them that they need to go broke, or they need to senselessly chase stardom in order to be worth something? It's not going to fix anything. So let's encourage people to be themselves and find themselves for themselves first and not others. Thank you for watching.
That was a really strong conclusion that Sierra had. And that's something that all of you need to consider. The presentations that we looked at today are very strong in a variety of categories. Spring of 2020, why you should not procrastinate. First summer 2020, talk to someone about your problems. Fall 2020, why animation is an important and useful medium. Fall intercession 2020, positive co-parenting. Spring 2021, heartworm prevention for dogs. And what we just witnessed, first summer 2021, exactly 1 year ago, almost, this week, pursuing celebrity lifestyles. Now I'm going to leave this visual on with Sierra for just a moment, because I want you to consider all of the presentations that we just watched in the respect that if we were in a classroom, we would be watching them just like this, front to back, all 6 of them. The checklist for the SAU speech evaluation form. Consider yourselves, when you're practicing for your persuasive speeches this week, from the 21 elements, 7 in content and delivery and visuals. Is your organization, now think about this with Sierra on the screen. Organization logical, introduction relevant, main supporting points apparent, topic research detailed, fairness inclusive, topic analysis thoughtful, conclusion concise, and hers definitely was. In terms of delivery, with the 6 people that you saw today, extemporaneous quality, continuous, conversational style, expressive, eye contact, full, or as full as can be when you're doing it line via Loom to your computer, articulation, enunciation, clear, vocal variety, varied, nonverbal cues, poised, persona, authentic. And as we saw with our final speaker, she is definitely authentic. And to use a gymnastic term, she really stuck the landing with a very strong conclusion. In terms of the visuals that you saw today, is the design consistency uniform? Font size, color, shading, readable, spelling, grammar, syntax, accurate, text image balance, comparable, interactivity, recurrent, storytelling ability, dynamic, aesthetic appeal, creative, all items that you should consider. One of the things that I was doing before we started class today was to go back and examine what we were looking at Thursday of last week with Informative Speech Day 2. I have the audio down, and I'm just going to play a segment with the audio down of our first presenter from Day 2, and I'll put her on the screen. Our first presenter on Thursday of last week was Zamori, and she's talking about asthma. Now the audio is down, and I'm going to play this. Look at her poised persona, where she's got her timer. There's a little bit of tweaking that needs to be done with being obscured by part of the first bullet point. But in her case, and I'm not going to do anything but just play this for the time being. And as you can tell, because this was being played for the first time, the closed captioning was not on. This is just a playback of the video from last week. And this is the way that all of you should honestly evaluate your own performances. Doesn't have to necessarily be anything spectacular in evaluating yourself, but knowing what you look like on camera. In the same way that I know what I look like on camera with my ring light, with my backdrop, it's something that I consider because my camera shot is going to be a little bit different than what you're providing. I'm not putting up any kind of slides or trying to figure out where I want my webcam to be. Now, the last thing that I want to do today is to remind you of what is upcoming tomorrow, because it's going to be persuasive speech topic selection. This is what I see for this class on Google Drive. When you're at the website, which I showed at the beginning of class, start, if you're doing some preliminary research, animal abuse is going to be the first of the outlines that you will find among representative examples from years gone by. And we will eventually get down into persuasive speech audio, and below that, eventually, persuasive speech video. And if you continue to scroll through, you'll see all different kinds of examples beyond that of wildcard speech outlines, audio and video examples. But I think most importantly, all of these videos, with today being number 12 of 19, are going to be available for you to access on the website relatively soon. So as we conclude the proceedings for today, start doing some serious research for day 1 and day 2 when it comes to your persuasive speech topics. But I think today, go back and watch these presentations, which I intentionally just played from front to back as if we were in a classroom, and try to get a flavor or a feel of their storytelling structure, how it's improved from speech 1 to speech 3, and they still have the wild card yet to go, just like you. How their text-image balance is improving, how they're using all of that information to remain an expressive, in this case, persuasive speaker. Video is one of your best friends. And again, something that I say all the time. The videos that we don't see, don't throw them away, because they are learning tools. And I don't view them as errors. I view them as learning tools. How can I improve? And then whatever I send to Professor Reppert, whether it be on YouTube or whether it be on Loom, how can that maximize my performance in all of the categories that he's been talking about during the semester? And if you see something on any of these persuasive videos today or tomorrow, and primarily it'll be from my website on Tuesday, go ahead and utilize it, whether it's a template, a font size, a font color, the way in which they are blending all of that material together, or what you saw with Jocelyn with the wider version of the webcam experiment, or the inset for the slides, not making them full screen, but making them slightly smaller, and 2 other things. Taking your slideshow and putting it into the slideshow mode instead of us seeing the slides on the side, because that's where people have issues if they haven't done it before, and letting us know who you are, what your topic is, an attractive visual, the title of the course, and when you're taking it on your title slide. Make certain that people know who you are so you can take credit for your work, because there will be materials, not everything, but there will be materials that will be placed on my website and ideally on my YouTube channel. But it all depends upon you. You're my content creators. Never forget that, and this is the official course roster, our scores have been quite positive so far, but nothing is guaranteed. And at some point next week, we'll be looking at the self-evaluation, speech critique, and class participation, and everything that adds up to 100 points. But I'm very much a let's take care of today and worry about tomorrow. Let's go ahead and put through some pre-planning. What would you like to talk about for a persuasive speech? That's going to be your main focus. Today's research, tomorrow is topic selection, but let's keep up the improvement. Let's keep up the good work. I'm seeing some positive things. Even after you leave this class, there will be issues that you have to work on, but it's a lifelong process of being a quality, thoughtful, knowledgeable, likable, articulate public speaker. But we're on the right track. Let's keep up that quality day by day, week by week, speech by speech. As for SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking during the first summer session of 2022, that concludes the recording session for today.